in the modern, multi-billion-dollar architecture of global soccer. The FIFA World Cup is supposed to be this ultimate, untouchable sanctuary of human sport. It's really this immortal ecosystem where geopolitical differences are just temporarily cast aside. It's where generations of fan culture culminate in pure athletic theater, and the singular pursuit of international glory unites literally billions of people across every single continent. But beneath all that romantic poetry of the pitch, there's a pretty cold, complex, and high-stakes landscape of corporate finance. Yesterday evening, the fragile diplomatic wall holding the whole sport together didn't just crack, it completely vaporized. So let's dive into exactly what happened. In an entirely unprecedented emergency meeting, UEFA's member nations basically executed the ultimate nuclear option. We're talking about all 55 European member nations voting unanimously, by the way, to launch a total, uncompromising boycott of the World Cup and all future FIFA competitions. This historic mutiny is a direct response to a secret $20 billion corporate plan by FIFA to sell off private ownership stakes of the sport's greatest legacy to Wall Street investors. The corporate chessboard is officially on fire right now. International schedules are entirely suspended, and the beautiful game has entered what looks like a dark, permanent civil war. This is the inside story of the night Europe voted to just walk away. UEFA released this incredibly hard-hitting statement that acts as an ironclad blockade, boldly declaring, quote, "The World Cup is not for sale." They made the argument that the sport's greatest legacy, which, has been built over generations by players and fans, simply cannot be treated as a mere investment product. It's a spectacular line drawn in the sand. They are officially rejecting the privatization of the tournament's governance and fiercely protecting what they view as the fundamental heritage of international football. All right, moving on to Section 1, the $20 billion gambit. Let's take a look inside FIFA Forward Enterprise. To really comprehend why European executives chose to pull the plug on the sport's grandest stage, we have to look directly at the hidden financial telemetry drafted over in Zurich. Here's how FIFA's plan mechanically breaks down. Step 1 involves creating an entirely separate commercial subsidiary company called FIFA Forward Enterprise, or FFE for short. This new entity would be tasked with managing, broadcasting, and monetizing the men's and women's World Cups alongside the newly expanded Club World Cup. Step 2. To fund this massive commercial expansion, FIFA quietly prepared to sell up to a 20% equity stake in this new company directly to external private equity firms and hedge funds. Which brings us to Step 3. The immediate goal is to raise a staggering $4.2 billion in initial capital. Now, looking at the proposed equity matrix, FIFA really stresses that they'll retain an 80% controlling stake. They argue this guarantees their complete authority over competitions, scheduling, and overall governance. However, that 20% slice carved out for institutional investors, that introduces a massive paradigm shift. The lead investor is expected to be Thrive Capital, founded by Joshua Kushner, with JP Morgan actually advising on the deal. So, for the very first time in history, this officially introduces private ownership parameters right into the governing matrix of the sport. You might be wondering, how on earth does FIFA justify this monumental shift to its 211 member associations? Well, on paper, it was pitched as a massive financial windfall that would profoundly redistribute wealth across developing football regions. If that $20 billion valuation is successfully achieved, FIFA is promising to take the developmental funding given to each national football association and bump it from $8 million up to an incredible $20 million by the 2027 to 2030 cycle. And potentially, that could even reach up to $40 million total in that period. For smaller nations that are trying to build grassroots programs and infrastructure, that kind of capital injection is frankly completely transformative. Let's transition to Section 2, the ironclad blockade. This is UEFA's counterstrike. Contrasting these two realities shows exactly where the whole thing broke down. On one side, you have FIFA's stated goal, which is purely about financial liquidity and global development aimed at leveling the international playing field. But on the flip side, UEFA has this existential fear that by introducing external investors, those investors are going to possess legal leverage to prioritize commercial extraction over competitive integrity. Their overriding concern is that commercial profit basically becomes a permanent obligation. They worry this will bring daily pressure from investors that could eventually manipulate kickoff times, alter tournament formats, and dictate the international calendar based entirely on what best serves the shareholders rather than what serves the game itself. And the message from Europe was swift and totally unforgiving. UEFA explicitly declared that no European national team will participate in any FIFA tournament for as long as these private equity proposals remain alive. Let's be clear, this isn't a minor warning loop. It is a total bulletproof embargo.
They're literally demanding the plan be, quote, abandoned in its entirety, insisting on binding, irrevocable assurances that FIFA will never again open its governance or competitions to private ownership.
But here's the thing, the crisis is rapidly escalating way beyond Europe. North America's soccer body, CONCACAF, just held an urgent meeting and officially rejected Infantino's plan, essentially joining the European boycott. With 41 North, Central American, and Caribbean nations formally objecting, FIFA is now staring down a unified intercontinental resistance. The institutional gridlock is multiplying fast, turning what started as a regional dispute into a truly global standoff.
Which brings us to Section 3, the microscopic tactical disaster. Let's look at the collateral damage. The cold, hard reality for Wall Street is this. For a private equity firm looking to invest billions of dollars, the entire valuation relies completely on the presence of global superstars. The World Cup derives its immense financial worth from the participation of heavyweights like France, Germany, Spain, England, and Italy. If you remove the elite European and North American blocks from the equation, the commercial value of the tournament instantly plummets off a cliff. UEFA has effectively weaponized its own talent pool. They're telling Wall Street that if private equity steps onto the pitch, the stars will simply walk away, which renders that entire FFE subsidiary completely worthless before a single share can even change hands. And on the ground, the collateral damage is just staggering. If this embargo actually holds, we are looking at systemic gridlock across the entire sport. Domestic league planning is thrown into absolute chaos. Club licensing and player release protocols are facing massive, immediate disruptions. All those multi-billion-dollar broadcasting rights packages for future tournaments, they're effectively broken because the networks simply don't know who's actually going to be playing. And those carefully coordinated international break calendars, completely suspended. The entire operational framework of global football is caught squarely in the crossfire. Which leaves us with this final monumental question. Can the beautiful game actually survive a permanent civil war? On one side, we have this wildly ambitious $20 billion corporate gambit promising to inject unprecedented wealth into developing football nations. And on the other, there's an uncompromising alliance of the sport's traditional powerhouses, completely ready to freeze the international calendar to protect the heritage of the game from Wall Street influence. It's literally an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. So who's going to blink first? What are your thoughts on privatizing the World Cup? It's a massive debate, and it's honestly just getting started. Thank you so much for diving into this explainer with me, and definitely keep your eyes on the pitch, because right now, the real match is happening in the boardroom.